Oh, it's that time. Hard to believe it's that time, but it feels good to be talking about it now. It's time for the Warchant top 40 players, the original top 40, as it should always be known. I think I've been a part of every one of these. I think everybody here has, right? Gene, Ira, Corey, is that correct?
Corey, not all of them. He wasn't one of the originals.
No, I should have known that. I tried to be inclusive. I knew the answer was that Corey hadn't been here. I just thought you guys would let the lie perpetrate, but no, we got to be careful. So, and Corey, you don't want to take credit for something you're not a part of anyhow. So,
no, that's not my MO. That's not what I do.
How many years now have you been part of it? I know this is one of your favorite events.
3. This is my 3rd one. Ira, this has got to be double digits now almost.
I'm not sure, but it's seems like it's maybe taken a little bit of a downturn in the last few years. I can't really put my finger on it where things went south.
Roster itself.
But no, that's possible too. But this is actually, we're going to talk about it. But I thought this, when you looked at this top 40 list and you actually look at it on paper, I came away thinking, man, there's a lot more good football players on this team than I may have thought of going into it.
I'm looking at it now, and I think it's a mixed bag completely, because it's a reminder of what Florida State's lacking in so many segment groups. Well, in particular, the offensive line and what they've been lacking at linebacker. And then, like you said, Ira, true, in other areas you feel like, okay, they've got something to work with here. If they're put in a position to succeed, they're coached up, they gain a little bit of confidence, they may not be a bad football team, in particular on defense.
Well, isn't this, you guys, when you went through this, wasn't the most difficult top 40 you've done? Because we didn't have a spring practice. Usually at least we got some foundation. Okay, this guy's jumping out a little bit. This guy's got some work to do. And you got throw in a new coaching staff too. Some of these are just wild guesses. Well, could pan out, could not. It seems like before we had a little bit more of a base before we jumped into this. Oh, this guy we know is going to be pretty decent. How much he'll play, we don't know. But at this point, some of these guys, even the top 40 may be irrelevant, or they could end up being top 10 guys at the end.
That and transfers. I thought about what you do with all the transfers and how many of those guys are going to make an impact right away. How many of those guys, well, first of all, you had to go through all of them to decide, is this guy even going to be eligible to play this year? Okay, he is. Vast majority of them are. How quickly do they hit the ground running? How quickly do they make an impact on the depth chart?
Yeah, that was really hard for me because we got 9, maybe 10 guys that are going to be transferred in, 9 for sure. Most of them will be eligible. And then also the quarterbacks. There is a legitimate chance it is a 4-way battle. We've never had one of these before where it's actually a 4-way battle for the starting spot. I think some of us think that 2 guys maybe have a better shot than others, but nobody knows who the starting quarterback is going to be for sure. And the other 3 guys that don't start, I think all of us can see avenues where they could start, whether it's Rodemaker, Travis, Purdy, or Blackman. I think all of them have a chance to start.
Well, let's go with that route right from the get-go here, because you want to start at 31 guys, or you want to go 40 to 31? The reason I say that is 31 on the list is Jordan Travis, and you were bringing up quarterbacks. But, I'm skipping ahead there. I know we can go 40 down. But
hey, can I take this one, Ira? I've never seen a list where you do a countdown where you start at the top and then work down to the bottom. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. Your approach, Jeff. And you've been doing this too long to ask that question.
Well, but I wanted to go straight to the one that I thought was most interesting. Right?
Well, that's a tease.
Yeah. You teased it. I took the obvious segue. I was like, oh, man, good job, Corey. You threw up a softball, baby.
I like that Corey gets brave in the Zoom format where we're all in different locations.
So you're saying headlines, Corey isn't a combative like this.
I'm just saying. I don't know. He's protected by the miles between us.
Is Jeff going to do something to me? We're friends. He's not going to
never know.
No, I'll do. Hey, listen, it's a top 40 list. We can start at 17. We can be arbitrary as hell. You just go anywhere you want. You want me to start at 1 or 40? We go with 40, right? Okay. True Thompson comes in at 40. Any of the headliners here we'll start with the guys that missed on the list completely. Do you guys want to add anything to the fact that we lost no Deloach, no McClendon, no Jordan Young, no Carlos Becker? Anybody got a problem with any of that?
No, I just think what I mentioned before, Jordan Young's a guy that, we saw, his film was ridiculous coming out of high school, and he's got all the tangibles you want to see, and the guy could be elite receiver. He could jump up, be a top 10 player, and he didn't even make the top 40 list. But we just don't know. We just don't have a big enough sample size to make an opinion on him. Carlos Becker has been in and out of the lineup his whole career. Who knows what he could do? So, we just don't know in these guys.
I'm glad you went to Jordan Young, because that was the guy that when you sent this out, I kind of thought, oh man, I would have guessed that he would have been on the list, because you see the ability, you see athleticism, you see a chance for him to be a sensational player. But you're right, there's just not enough there. That leads us.
And sorry to interrupt, but like what compounds it, what you guys were talking about before with the position battles, is it's the toughest. Some of the toughest things to decide with this were receivers and offensive linemen, because the offensive line, there's some positions that are going to be up for grabs, particularly Bavion Johnson and Baselli. We don't know who's going to get that starting job. And then at receiver, there's a couple other spots as well. Then at receiver, there's so many guys that can play, and we don't know how they're going to utilize them. I had Keyshawn Helton really high on the list, but other people didn't. Samari and Terry is probably the only guy we all agree should be on high on the list. But there's so many receivers that you probably could kind of put in a bag and pull names out of the hat.
That's one of the areas, Ira, you alluded to it earlier about, man, they've got some skill. Receiver was one. I already knew they were talented, but if certain guys, I think of Warren Thompson, who we'll get to later, if certain guys really take another step forward and become more disciplined route runners and are more focused at their craft, this could be a really deep and talented segment that has a chance to exploit quite a few teams on the schedule, because you have a lot of those middling games where if you have any time to throw it all, Florida State's got real weapons on the edges.
And you have 15. And 15 is always going to be attracting attention on one side of the field. So you're going to have a lot of receivers that get one-on-one matchups.
He's
number
five,
man. He's number 5.
He's 15 in my heart. He's 15 in my heart. It's crazy that he went to 5.
Okay, so we get into the actual list, those that did make it, and we start with number 40, True Thompson, the defensive tackle. That's a deep segment too, by the way, especially with a transfer coming in. That's a deep segment. I like True Thompson, and I see why he's here. It makes sense on this list. I don't know how much they're going to count on him this year, but early in this group, it wasn't True Thompson that stood out to me the most. I just started with him because he's the last guy. He's at number 40. Steven Dix. Yeah. I wanted to go there immediately. In the 3 practices that we saw, you had a chance, we all did, to see a guy that really flowed naturally, who had a lot of instincts. I know it's 3 practices, but he flashed.
And isn't he a guy that if we didn't have spring practice at all, like some schools didn't, he probably wouldn't even be on the list. But you're right, Jeff. In those 3 practices, you're like, whoa, this guy's legit. He can play. I mean, he looks like he moves well. He's he looks like a college linebacker, even though he's a true freshman. He looks incredible. We get to deal with him a little bit recruiting, a real sharp guy. I figure he's going to pick it up quickly. And let's face it, this is the weakest segment on defense. So a guy coming in like this has a chance of not to start to play quite a bit in year 1.
From a physical standpoint, Steven Dix and Kalen Deloach, I don't know if you saw any of those photos of him from the little individual workouts they were doing earlier this summer, just players on their own. I mean, that guy looks like just a machine physically. And those guys may not even start. And so, they have so much experience with guys like Leonard Warner and Emmett Rice and Amari Gaynor obviously started. But you got Jaleel McRae, Deloach, and Steven Dix are, an incredible future at linebacker, but I don't know if any of those guys are going to start.
I just like Dix that he's physical and he's smart. Those are really good combinations. You can tell he seemed to have a little natural ability to him too, which is what Norvell was talking about when they signed him. But I talking to him, you get an idea how bright he is, which can be a really big deal at that position, and also loves contact and loves being physical.
Yeah, you talked about the instincts that were there. You could pick up on it very quickly. He flowed to the football so easily, and then the athleticism to do something about it. I'm excited about Steven Dix. I think the viewers of this can tell that we all are, actually. Elsewhere on this list, some guys that stand out, maybe Leonard Warner, Isaiah Bolden. We look in at 38, 37, respectively there. Anybody you guys want to nominate as we go through this first group of players that jumped off the page to you? Were you surprised where they were? A player that maybe you think should be ranked a lot higher? Was there anybody? Because really early on, it doesn't look like there's too much in the way of dissension between the 4 of us here. It seems like we're all okay where these guys are.
I think it gets interesting, Jeff, right above those 2 guys. We got the 2 offensive linemen where it's interesting. Some offensive linemen we got up incredibly high, and these guys, Bavion Johnson and Brady Scott. Brady Scott's going to be a starter. I don't even know if Bavion's going to be a starter, honestly. It looks like the way we have another center rated higher, it doesn't look like he's going to start. But isn't Scott going to start at guard? So I'm just kind of surprised he's down this low as an offensive line starter.
Well, the way I looked at it was, and this isn't specifically about Brady Scott, but the way I did with several positions on this group, where I had guys who are starters. I expect them to be starters, but I don't know if they're impact players. And if they couldn't play, would the team change dramatically? And I think that's the issue with Brady Scott. He's been in and out of the lineup, and it really hasn't mattered. It's not like when he's been in the lineup, they've been appreciably better than when he hasn't been in the lineup. So that's why I didn't have him as high. But the problem with Baselli and Bavion Johnson is I don't know who's going to start at center. We thought Baselli might have won the job last year, but they kept throwing out Bavion. Every time we feel like Baselli's going to get the job, Bavion ends up being the guy. So I don't know if that's decided. But, yeah, that offensive line is difficult because even the guys who other than Dante Lucas, Darius Washington, he's important because he's going to be the left tackle, but we don't know if he's going to be a difference maker. And I think that's the challenge with those linemen.
Yeah, there's not a sure thing. There's not a sure thing on the line other than Dante Lucas. I don't know that you'd bet your house on any of these guys winning a starting job from a new offensive line coach. You know what I mean? They don't have a connection with him, and they had 3 practices one practice really in pads to try to impress him. So it's hard to rank linemen when you don't know what the starting 5 is going to be, and you only know there's one good one. The other ones could be good, but for all we know, Dante 55. I was going to call him 55, but then I wondered that he might have changed his jersey number 2.
He's number 6 now. He's number 6.
Oh, is he number 6? That's a great look for an offensive lineman. He's the only one we know for sure that I believe anyway is going to be a very good offensive lineman.
That was to Ira's point, and I have a tendency to be overly critical, I suppose, but I agreed with you, Ira. When I ranked Brady Scott, for example, I felt the same way about him as I do a lot of these guys who we've seen play an awful lot of football. None of them are any good. So it's kind of like you sit there and go, okay, well, that guy's going to start, but he kind of sucks. So we're stuck. Yeah.
You started that by saying you don't like to be critical, or you don't?
No. I said typically I am very critical.
Oh, okay. But you're not going to be here.
No, not here. Not here. I'm going to ease up a little bit here. This isn't the place for it. I don't know why you went there, Ira. What I'm saying is I ranked him, and I was like, but he's going to be a starter. Yeah, but he has sucked when he does start. So then I just had to move forward. That's how that happened, guys.
Gotcha.
And maybe I just motivated Brady Scott not only to beat me up, but also to dominate on the football field this year. And that'd be great. Not the beat me up part. All right, so here we go. Now I get to go to where I wanted to go before. Jordan Travis, 31. Aslan had him unranked. Gene, you had him in the top 20.
Yep.
Everybody else had him in the 30s. I think clearly the me, Ira, and Corey segment here are the correct people in this group. The 30s seems about right. 20s crazy. And Aslan, I understand why you have him unranked.
All right, I guess this is where I have to defend myself, huh?
Yeah, a little bit.
Pretty simple. Awful offensive line. Jordan Travis is the best running quarterback on the team, and you even see it in the NFL that it's the trend. The quarterbacks that can run, you don't necessarily need great offensive lines. You don't even need good offensive lines. You can make some plays out of that. Look, this is a complete crapshoot. We talked about it before. There are 4 quarterbacks that could legitimately win this job. I've been covering Florida State for a long time, been a fan even longer. I've never remember a situation like this going into preseason practices. We have no idea, and there's 4 guys out there. I guess this one of the scenarios. I have a hard time always believing. I know we see in college football where true freshman quarterbacks are getting on the field more and more and starting. I still think it's kind of rare, the exception. So I know everybody's jumping on the Chuba train, and that'd be great if that happens. But again, I still think the odds are against it, which means you probably maybe start the season with Blackman, and he does what a lot of us think he will not be successful. And then I think Jordan Travis is the next option to come in just to buy that offense some time with his legs and his athleticism a little bit. But it's still, I will still say, we don't know if he can pass the football. I don't know. I mean, if he can't at all, then yeah, I think I'm going to be completely legitimized by that thing. If he can't, well, then he may not even be in the top 40.
Real quick, to defend Aslan, since he doesn't have a chance right now, he's actually, for people that don't know, Aslan took part in the vote, but he's actually behind the scenes on this one. He's handling the video side, the directing. He's wearing that hat right now. But yeah, I started out with Jordan Travis. I actually started out with him low, and then I dropped him low meaning high. Like I dropped him as a lower number, meaning high on the list.
Oh,
and then I I got the scales.
Low meaning high.
I had him high on the list, and then I dropped him completely out of it because I started thinking, well, he may not play at all. And then I moved him back up again. There's a lot of these that are difficult. He's the biggest wild card of all. I do think the fact that he can line up at quarterback and has thrown a pass at the college level, because you could put a lot of different athletes behind center and run wildcat things. The fact that he has thrown a pass before, I think and he has QB by his name, adds a little bit of a dimension. So I do think they're going to use him. It's just hard to know how much.
I think the reason I had him ranked, and I think I definitely had him in the 30s too, but I do think he's going to play. I think he's got more of a guarantee to play than maybe any of the other three quarterbacks for sure, because I think they're going to have a package for him, whether it's in the red zone or just a couple of times a game, to have him come out and lead some. I don't want to call it a wildcat because he's an actual quarterback, but to have that running threat. I don't know if he's going to be a starter, but I do see him contributing. I think he's going to contribute more than any other quarterback but one. And yeah, like Gene said, I guess there's a chance he can win the starting job. But even if he doesn't, I think he's a part of their game plans every week.
I agree.
Hey,
I think he'll play.
All
I
right,
definitely
there we
think he'll
go.
play. That'll do it. 31 through 40. Next time around, we'll go 21 through 30. Looking forward to it as we do every year. The top 40 on warchant.com, of course.